Right now, someone weaker than you is winning. Why? Because they look certain. They talk with no pause. They act like they deserve it all. And the world, it buys it. Every time. Meanwhile, you hesitate. You overthink. You wait for the right moment, the perfect words, the safe feeling. And while you wait, someone else grabs what should have been yours. Confidence ain't just a trait, it's a weapon. If you don't carry it, someone else will use it against you. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. The bold get ahead, even when they lack the skill. The hesitant, they stay behind, no matter how brilliant. Because power, it never belongs to the best. It bows to the most certain. This video is your turning point. Not for motivation, not for comfort, but for control. You'll learn how to erase hesitation, speak like a ruler, move like a man who expects to be obeyed. Watch closely. From here on, your weakness, it's not welcome, it'll be replaced. You weren't born weak. You were made that way by repetition, by rewards, trained to obey, trained to please, trained to ask, is this okay? What lives inside you now? It ain't a man, it's a servant, programmed to submit, a loyal dog, flinching at judgment, begging for permission. That voice in your head, the one that hesitates, that overthinks, that apologizes before it speaks, that ain't you. That's the inner servant. And if you don't kill him, you'll never be free. Machiavelli didn't whisper, he commanded. He didn't wait to be understood. He acted and let the world catch up. He never asked for power, he took it, 'cause he knew, if you ask, you don't deserve. Your transformation starts with inversion. When you want to shrink, expand. When you want to explain, pause. When you want to apologize, stare. Because dangerous confidence doesn't come from feeling ready. It comes from doing what that inner servant would never dare. You walk faster. You take up space. You stop nodding. You stop softening your tone. You speak like your words are decisions, not suggestions. Confidence ain't a mindset. It's an identity. And that identity, it's forged in defiance. Not against the world, but against you, the part of you that still wants to serve. Here's your first rule. If it makes you small, kill it. A thought, a habit, a person, kill it. If it makes you hesitate, face it. If it makes you weak, deny it. If it tries to be liked, laugh at it. The world will preach. Be kind. Be polite. Be nice. But here's the Machiavellian truth. Nice men, they're tools. Used. Discarded. Replaced. Powerful men ain't nice. They're precise. Measured. Controlled. Calculated. And it starts by slaughtering that little voice inside. The one that begs to be accepted. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You need just one thing. The willingness to become feared. Not by others, but by your former self. 'Cause once you kill the servant, the ruler wakes up. Powerful men, they don't arrive loudly. They arrive with presence. Not through their voice, but through their silence. Their stillness. Their stare. You don't need to be known. You don't need to be liked. You just need the air to shift. When you step in, that's how a man owns the room. Not 'cause someone told him he does, but because he moves like he always has. Machiavelli knew this. In royal courts, the ones who ruled weren't always the kings. Sometimes it was the man in the corner who barely spoke. But when he did, the entire court leaned in. Silence is control. You think talking makes you dominant. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. The quiet man is the threat, 'cause no one knows what he's thinking. When you walk into a room, you don't ask for permission. You don't scan for approval. You observe, you absorb, you let them rush to prove themselves. While you calculate, your posture speaks before your mouth does. You move slow, not 'cause you're uncertain, but 'cause you're in no hurry. Predators don't sprint unless it's time to strike. Until then, they wait. Calm, ready. Most people, They don't even see how fast they move, how fast they talk, how often they interrupt, because they're trying to impress, still trapped beneath someone else's judgment. But when you walk in, like you own the room, you don't speak to impress, you speak to decide. Every sentence, final. Every word sounds like a conclusion. People start to listen differently. They don't challenge you, they adjust to you. And when others talk, you wait, you let them go first. You let them reveal their hunger, their insecurity, their fear, because the one who talks first always shows what they're afraid of. And when you know that, you can bend them at will. You don't chase energy, you create gravity, confidence. At this level, it ain't about being liked. It's about making them question their own position just by standing near you. So you carry yourself like you've already won, not with arrogance, but like a man who doesn't compete, because he's already chosen himself. If they respect you, good. If they don't, even better, because indifference to approval, that's the final form of power. And if the room wasn't yours when you stepped in, by the time you leave, they'll remember it was. Not because you demanded it, but because you didn't have to. Words, they ain't just sounds, they're weapons. Most men, they speak like they're asking for permission to exist. You can spot them right away. That rising tone at the end of every line, the nervous laughter, the endless, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. They talk like they're sorry for being here. That ain't speech, that's self-sabotage. Machiavelli knew, power ain't just what you say, it's how you say it. When you talk like you cannot be denied, people don't analyze your words. They submit to the weight of your certainty. 'Cause here's the game. People, they ain't logical. They're emotional. They don't follow truth. They follow conviction. If you sound sure, they assume you're right. If you hesitate, they assume you ain't worth hearing. So, what does a Machiavellian voice sound like? It's slow, calm, final. You speak like your words aren't up for debate. Each line, a decree. You speak like someone who's already expects to be obeyed. Doesn't matter if you're in a room full of experts. If you sound like a decision, they'll defer. That's the first rule. Sound like the end, not the beginning. And here's what most won't dare tell you. You don't need to speak often to be respected. In fact, the more you talk, the more chances they get to decode you, to challenge you, or worse, to stop fearing you. Speak less, mean more. And when you do speak, cut out the softness. No filler, no explanations, no apologies. Never say, I'm just saying, or I could be wrong, or I don't know if this makes sense, but those are escape hatches for the weak. Burn them. Say what you mean, and leave it there. Let others wrestle with the silence that follows. Because silence, after a strong statement, is power. It dares people to challenge you, and most won't. Why? They're too afraid of what else you might say. Now understand, your tone is your real message. The words, they're just the surface. But your calm, grounded, deliberate tone, it tells people exactly where you stand in the hierarchy. You want to rise? Lower your pitch, slow your tempo, kill the nervous energy, sound like a man with nothing to prove and everything under control. Sound like someone who's already decided and expects the world to catch up. You don't win conversations by being louder. You win them by speaking in a way that makes people feel your words aren't suggestions. They're facts. That's how rulers speak, how generals speak, how kings in exile speak, right before they take their thrones back. And if someone challenges you, never defend, redirect. Don't argue, don't explain, don't justify. Just say, I disagree, or better, that's incorrect. Then move on. Because when you refuse to debate, you send a signal, something terrifying. Your reality is not up for negotiation. That's how you control a room, without ever raising your voice. Because confidence, it ain't volume, it's gravity. It's that invisible weight behind your words. The assumption that when you speak, others listen. When you speak, the room should feel it. Not through noise, not through arrogance, but through unshakable certainty. You're not trying to be right. You speak like someone who can't be wrong. You're not trying to be heard. You talk like someone who doesn't care if they agree, because sooner or later, they will. That's power. And from this moment forward, that's how you speak, or you stay silent. Confidence, without control, is just decoration. You can walk tall, speak well, move with authority, but if someone can still trigger you with one sentence, you're not powerful, you're exposed. This is where most men fail. They master presence, they master speech, but their emotions still belong to everyone else. One whisper of disrespect, they react. One compliment, they soften. A moment of silence, they spiral. You are not free until you master the invisible war, the one inside your mind, and that begins by rewiring your identity. Machiavelli knew this in the royal courts. He didn't fear enemies, he feared dependency, emotional or otherwise. He didn't trust affection, he trusted control, because once they know what moves you, they know where to press. And once they know where to press, you're not dangerous anymore. You're manageable, and manageable men, they're discarded the moment they lose usefulness. So here's the transformation. You stop being the man who reacts. You become the man who calculates. Someone insults you. You don't explain. You observe. You extract data. What do they want from you? What are they hiding behind the insult? Someone praises you. You don't melt. You analyze. Why now? What do they want? Someone ignores you. You don't panic. You turn colder. Silence becomes your weapon, not your wound. This is what it means to be psychologically unreachable. Not emotionless, but unshakable. You feel everything, but you act on nothing, unless it serves your outcome. When someone tests you, you don't lash out. You show no visible discomfort. Why? Because your mind is not a public space, it's a fortress. And you decide who enters. That is how you stop being manipulated. Most men, so easy to control, it's laughable. Tell them they're not good enough. They'll over-explain. Tell them they're amazing. They'll chase you. Pull away emotionally. They'll beg to come back. That's not power, that's programming. And until you break the code, you'll always be someone else's tool. So, how do you rewire? You kill the need to be understood. That's the root virus. The need to explain yourself, to be seen, to be validated. It's what makes you controllable. Burn it. You don't exist to be understood. You exist to move the world. Strategically, surgically, silently. You kill the fear of rejection. Because the Machiavellian mind, it doesn't chase acceptance. It controls access. You don't want to be invited in. You want them to wonder what happens when they're no longer allowed near you, and you kill the habit of reacting emotionally. Emotions, real, but irrelevant, unless weaponized. You're angry. Use it as fuel. You're insulted. Use it as leverage. You're doubted. Use it as silence. Then let results speak for you later. That's how powerful men are built. They don't become robotic. They become undeniable. Because once no one can move you emotionally, they can only watch you move with precision and fear what you'll do next. Let others chase peace and understanding. You chase clarity and control. Because the world doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to what you project. Certainty, direction, gravity. And when your identity becomes unshakable, you become dangerous. Not cause you're violent, not cause you're loud, but because you're unreachable. The people around you, they'll try, they'll test you, they'll praise you, they'll ignore you, they'll tempt you, but nothing works. You stay the same, cold, calm, calculated, and in time, they stop trying to move you because they realize something terrifying. You are the one person they cannot move. This is the final transformation. Not posture, not speech, not appearance, but identity. You're no longer shaped by others. You shape the room. You shape the rules. You shape the outcome. You don't need to be understood. You don't need to be accepted. You don't need anything from anyone. 'Cause now you belong to no one. And that makes you untouchable. Rejection feels like a wound to the weak, to the powerful. It's a signal, a gift, a message from the world saying, you were too available, too obvious, too desperate. Good. Now you know exactly what needs to be destroyed. Understand this. Rejection ain't personal. It's positional. People reject what they believe they can survive without. So if they said no to you, it means they think they lost nothing. That's not an insult. That's intel. Now you know where they stand and where you stand, which means you can position yourself to strike back later when they're weak, when you're untouchable. Step 1. Never appear affected. The moment you show pain, they win. It's not even about them. It's about your legend. A Machiavellian mind doesn't panic when the door shuts. It makes the room colder. You weren't rejected. They were disqualified from accessing you. Rejection's only real if you acknowledge it. So you don't react. You evolve. Step 2. Withdraw your presence like a weapon. What happens when something you took for granted disappears? You start to feel its weight, its value. That's exactly what you do when rejected. Vanish. No explanations. No emotional farewells. Just a strategic absence. And while they feel the void, you build. Machiavelli said, men should be either treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries, but not for ones too severe. So don't hurt them. Make them irrelevant. Make your silence louder than your words. Make them wonder where you went, how far you've gone, and if they ever really had access to you at all. Step 3. Reframe the narrative. Rejection only has power if it looks like you were chasing something. So rewrite the story. Not for them, for yourself. You weren't rejected. You selected yourself out of a game too small for you. You allowed them to say no because you were watching. You gave them one chance to prove they had the discernment to recognize power. They failed. And in that failure, they told you everything you needed to know. So you vanish and you upgrade. Step 4. Convert rejection into control. Here's where you win. Rejection is clarity. Most people live in confusion. No clue who respects them, who uses them, who fears them. But rejection slices through that fog like a blade. Now you know who's blind. Now you see where your power has no impact yet. So what do? You refine your edge. You sharpen your image. You amplify your value so loudly that the people who once ignored you now have to explain themselves when they speak your name. And next time they come back, and they will, you don't even need to reject them. You've already evolved beyond their reach. That's control. Silent, permanent, elegant. Step 5. Weaponize your comeback. The goal is never revenge. Revenge is emotional. Machiavellian power is always calculated. So you don't get back at anyone. You let time handle that. You reappear only when your presence creates discomfort. When your success is so loud, they can't avoid it. When the person who rejected you is now forced to watch you dominate the space they swore you didn't belong in. You say nothing. No spite. No sarcasm. No ego. Maybe a simple glance. Or better, no glance at all. Because now, you're not trying to be accepted. You're setting the standard. Final word. Rejection is not defeat. It's the test. The filter. The fire that shows you what must be cold, what must be cut, and who must be left behind. So remember, you weren't rejected. You were redirected toward a version of you that doesn't ask twice, doesn't flinch, and doesn't wait to be chosen. Now, go build in silence. Return as a force they can't reject, even if they want to. You've been reshaped, not inspired, not motivated. Rebuilt from the inside out. You killed self-doubt, not with affirmations, but with action. You didn't wait to feel ready. You moved, you acted, and you learned. Power doesn't belong to the perfect. It belongs to the bold. You took rejection, turned it into fuel. No more chasing approval. Now, you let people feel the cost of losing you. You became scarce, strategic, silent, and they noticed. You stopped entering rooms to be accepted. Now, you own them through presence, posture, and precision. You don't speak to be heard. You speak like no one can afford to disagree. And above all, you rewired your identity. You're no longer predictable, no longer easily moved. You've become unreachable, emotionally untouchable. They can't provoke you, they can't tempt you, they can't shake you, because you belong to no one now. And that makes you unforgettable. That's what builds a legend. Not noise, not fame, but powerful silence, cold clarity, ruthless consistency. You don't need to announce your transformation. They'll feel it, in your walk, in your tone, in your absence. You've become the man people watch, quietly, the one who used to chase, now being chased, the one who used to ask, now deciding, the one who doesn't need approval, because he became the standard. So no, this wasn't just about confidence. This was about dominance, mental, emotional, psychological. You are not here to fit in. You are here to move the pieces, to bend the room, to haunt their memory, even in silence. Because legends don't beg, they don't explain. They exist, and the world reshapes around them. Final command, like this video. If you're done chasing, subscribe if you're ready to become the kind of man they can't control, can't predict, and can never forget. Because this ain't self-help. This is war, and you just became a weapon.